Hello everyone and welcome to this week's behind the scenes devlog video. Firstly, sorry for the lack of videos last weekend. I've had a few other things going on recently which I'll talk about later in this video, but because of that I didn't really have any time last weekend to do editing. It hasn't really got in the way of development though. I've still been sticking to my schedule in terms of Equilinox, and over the last couple of weeks I've been working on taking all of the features that I've created in the last year, all of the mechanics, all of the species, and I've started putting them all together and actually building up the final game. So for example, I've been setting up all of the evolution trees, working out the requirements for unlocking each species, balancing all of the prices, all of the living requirements, and creating all of the tasks that are going to allow you to progress through the game. And before I started doing this, I actually removed all of the species from the game and all of the tasks and basically all of the content so that I could start building it up from the very bottom. And you can see that I've added a handful back in already. I've been adding them in one by one and doing all of the content for each one as I added in. So basically, once all of the species have been added back into the game will be finished. So first up today, I've been doing some planning, which I've been doing a lot of over the last couple of weeks, just planning out all the breeding trees and all the different requirements for unlocking different species, and just generally planning out how exactly you can progress through the game. Just been doing a bit of work on the apple tree next today, and I've been making sure that the apples now sit on top of the terrain instead of previously where they were kind of half sinking into it. I've also just added the seaweed back into the game, and this can be bred from the grass as you can see here. And I've also just made some changes to the UI here, which now displays the fruit production rate for the apple tree, and this is now dependent on how happy the apple tree is with its environment. It is 11 o'clock now, and I've just been adding in some content to do with the chickens. The chickens are the first species in the birds evolution tree, so they can't be bred, they need to be unlocked via a task. So I've added in a task for that, and I also added in a task for the chickens to have 3 chickens in the world that are happy. And I also made some changes to environmental codes. There is now a disliked species factor. So some species can dislike other species. So for example, the chickens here, as an example, don't like trees. So if I were to add a tree into the chickens area here, you can see that the chickens are now quite unhappy with their environment. Next up today, I've just been doing a bit of work on the wild boar, which is an animal that can be bred from the sheep. And I've just been trying to organise all of the environmental preferences for the boar and trying to balance them. I want it to be a little bit challenging to create an area that's suitable for the boar to live in. I don't want you to just be able to place a boar anywhere and it'll be fine. But I also don't want it to be too tricky, otherwise it just becomes annoying. So you have to take a little bit of care to create a suitable environment for the boars to live in. Also, I just created one more task to do with the boar, as you can see here. And next today I'm going to do a bit of modelling because I need to create a few new small plants and flowers for Equilinox. Just been making a few new flower models for Equilinox, as you can see here, and I'll add these into the game later, but for now I need to have some lunch, then I'm going off to tennis, and then I'll be back to work later this afternoon. Back from tennis now, and I've just been doing a bit of work on the sheep's AI, and I've been making sure that it doesn't wander off into the water anymore. So you can see this sheep here is stuck on this island and it never goes into the water anymore. To finish off the afternoon today, I've just been doing a little bit more modelling in Blender, and I've created the younger versions for 3 of those new flowers that I made earlier today. So starting off the morning today with a bit more planning, just planning out a few more requirements for some of the species, and I've also just added the rosemary plant back into the game. That can be bred from the grass, and it spreads the forest biome, so it's good for having around if you need to create a forest biome. Next up this morning, I'm going to be doing some work on the inventory system, and I've just been planning out how exactly I'm going to do that. Over the last few days, as I've been doing a lot of testing, I realised that the inventory is a little bit pointless and could easily be avoided. So for example, when you want to place something in the world, at the moment you have to buy it from the shop, then go into your inventory, select it in the inventory, and then place it into the world. And obviously it would be much easier if you could just go straight into the shop, select the object that you want to place, and then place it directly into the world. So I'm going to make those changes in a bit, but first I'm just going to pop to the shop quickly. I've got a real craving for some cherries at the moment for some reason, so I'm going to go and get some. So I've been rearranging some of the code for the shop and the inventory, and I've been making a bit of progress with this. So you can see now that when I click on one of these items in the shop, I now select that item, and I can then place as many of them as I want in the world. And obviously each time I place it, this will cost DP. And then when I'm done, I can right click, and that brings the shop back up, and I can choose a different item. Still a lot left to do with this, obviously, and I'll do some more after lunch. Almost finished work on the new shop system now, so I've added the price next to the object that you're about to place so that you can see what that is, and you can see that there's an effect when you place an object. I'll make the UI for this look a bit nicer at some point, but for now I just wanted to get the functionality working. And yeah, it's pretty much all done now. It's much easier to use. You can just place a few objects, then swap to another object, place as many as you want. It just makes it all a lot easier and faster to use. Just been adding all of those new flowers into the game, the flowers that I made yesterday, and you can see some in the world here, and they're looking pretty nice. It is 6 o'clock now, and I've just been finishing off the afternoon today by doing some work on this large tree, which is pretty much finished now, but obviously I still need to make all of the younger versions for it. But now I'm going to have some dinner, and then later this evening I'll do some work on the next tutorial. So this evening I did a bit of work on the tutorial, and now I'm just doing some editing for this week's behind the scenes devlog video. Sorry that the tutorials have taken a bit of a backseat recently, and they're not coming out quite as often as I'd like them to. Obviously my main focus at the moment is finishing off Equilinox, which I'd really like to finish this year. I'm really hoping that I can release it sometime towards the end of this year, which would be great. So obviously I've been concentrating on that quite a lot recently. And also, as I mentioned earlier in this video, there's been some other stuff going on recently which has made things a little bit more chaotic than usual. Basically, I might be moving flat soon. I might be moving out of Berlin, so obviously there's lots of extra stuff that I need to sort out to do with that. And it's also not certain yet. It's still all very much up in the air, which makes things obviously a little bit more stressy than usual. But I'm sure it will all get sorted out soon, and then I can hopefully get back to a more regular schedule for releasing the tutorials. So this morning I've been working on adding the warthog into the game, and I just want to give you an example of how you can breed a warthog. So first you need to check the requirements necessary to breed a warthog, and you can see that in order to do that you need to have a boar living in an area that it's very happy with. It needs to have a very high environmental satisfaction. So first I need to check the environmental preferences of the boar, and you can see that the boar likes to live in a forest biome, and it also likes to have juniper trees around it. So first I'm going to plant some juniper trees, and first I need to check where they like to grow, and you can see that they like to grow at fairly high altitudes. So I'll find a decent spot to plant them, and now I can plant some here. And next I need to create a forest biome, and one plant that's good at doing that is wheat, but unfortunately wheat can't grow at this altitude. It would grow really badly and just wouldn't be able to create a forest biome. So I'll have to use a different plant, and another plant that I can use is the fern, which is a tier 3 plant, so you'd have to do some breeding to unlock it first. I've already unlocked it, so I can plant some here. And I've also found that it's better to have a couple of different plant species to create a biome. It just makes the biome a little bit more stable. So I'm going to add some rosemary in here as well. Finally, I just need a food source for the boars, and you can see that the boars like to eat wheat, which again, you can't grow up here. Potato plants would also be on this list, but I haven't added them back into the game yet. So we need to find some fruit for the boars. So we need a fruit tree that can grow at this altitude in a forest biome, and the apple tree can do that, so I'm going to plant one of them here. Now I'm just going to speed up the time so that all of these plants grow and spread, and I can now add some boars into this area. And after a while you'll have some happy boars living here. You can see that they're very happy with their environment and they're not hungry or anything. And because we've met those requirements for breeding a warthog, you can see that the boar now has a chance, every time it gives birth, it has a chance of breeding and unlocking that warthog species. So that's pretty much going to be it this week in terms of Equilinox. For the rest of the day today, I've got a load of other stuff to do. I need to do my weekly food shopping. Then later today I'm going off to a friend's party, and I want to take some cupcakes with me, so I need to make them first as well. And of course I've also got the editing to do for this week's video. Next week I'm going to be adding some more species back into the game and slowly building the game up on its way to completion. But yeah, that's going to be it for this week. Thank you guys very much for watching this video. Do subscribe if you haven't already. Have a fantastic week, and I will see you all next time.